question for Opendoor: when you will be profitable? And there's a fantastic way to look at this, because this will absolutely the company, I think, about explode. Okay, and this is what we talk about today.
Welcome to the game, I'm the Wolf of Dubai.
So welcome to a brand new video. If you're watching a video of mine for the very first time, I look for stocks that explode. You know, Nvidia, Tesla, Robinhood, all of those were in my portfolio very, very early. Crazy volatility. So I'm very, very relaxed and looking at the market right now and really liking the cheap prices because I can buy more, right? So, but I also have my extended day trading group. We are killing it. Another great trade on SMCI this morning. We haven't lost a trade since 2.5, almost 3 weeks, guys. Can we get the full months? Let's see. Okay, so let's have a look into the performance that we want to achieve. It's between like 2 to 4% per week. So compounded, that's like about like 8 to 15% per month. And that gives you, if you start with $10,000, somewhere around like $58,000 in the first 12 months. And this is interesting, all done for you. Then schedule a call with me personally, and I see you on a 15-minute call with me personally. Okay, so Opendoor is now currently using all of the stack that they have. Okay, so essentially there was an interview about a month ago with Cass, which is very important. Have a look.
Opendoor CEO Cass Najatian. So great to have you in studio. You know, we did the one interview on remote, and people who didn't know you fell in love with you. The people who already love you even more. But you do have a tall task on your hand, and I want to talk with this release I saw the other day. Opendoor, new CEO, pushes AI-first turnaround and founder mode strategy. Let's talk about the AI part of this. How integral is this to the business?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's actually very important. Look, we think home ownership is important for the world because kids that grow up in homes that their parents own end up having better outcomes. Neighborhoods are safer. When people buy homes, they're buying a share in America, and that's a good thing for the world. And because of that, it's important that we use every tool at our disposal to make home ownership more common. And AI is just one of those wonderful tools where across the company, our busiest Slack channel is one called Default to AI, where folks, including our folks on the street who are helping us renovate homes, are using AI every day in their job to make homeownership more common. And I genuinely don't think we could do our job without AI every single day.
But it's also giving you a competitive edge.
100%. When I came to Opendoor, we used to have up to 11 human beings touch every home before we put an offer on it. Last week, in many of our flows, that was down to one person. And this just means we can put more offers on more good homes so we can actually make home ownership more common in this place.
You know, the segment before you, we talked about AI being the elixir. And one of a really great stock pickers now focus on companies that are using AI most efficiently, and those stocks are responding this last quarter. So it's great to hear that you're doing that. I also like the notion of a founder mode strategy. You know, I don't know if people realize, but stocks that are headed by founders do extraordinarily well for a variety of reasons. How are you going to bring that mentality to Opendoor?
Yeah, I think there's basically two modes for companies. There's companies that are run by professional managers, and there are companies that are run by founder types. And these companies just do very different things. If you want to study as she goes, just go down that way. Professional managers are really good at that. This is what business school books are about, right? How to run a regular company. But if you want extraordinary companies, companies that just change how an industry looks, how the country looks, how the world looks, you want founders in charge. Because that is a bet on amazing alpha that you can't really create if you're just incrementally changing things. Let me give you an example. On my first day at work at Opendoor, on the first Monday, Opendoor was a remote company. I stood up in front of the company and I said, hey folks, we're going back to the office in 7 days. In 7 days, we went from being remote, not having offices, to everyone being back in an office. No regular company with regular managers would have done that. They would have a 7-year plan for a 6-month transition. There'd be a bunch of consultants in the way. And you can't really do that if you want to move fast.
Right.
That's a main difference. Speed of execution is the main difference for founder mode.
Yeah, and the passion, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and it's infectious. It's infectious. People know, like, you sleep on the floors, you come before everyone, you leave after everyone. They can see that.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, someone's behind the screen. We don't know, we only see them on Zoom calls. I want to circle back to this American dream thing that you talk about so passionately. A slew of headlines this year. Young folks have given up on the American dream. It's out of reach. What are you doing? That seems to be just as big of a hurdle, perhaps, than almost everything else that you have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's a very tough world out there in this one area where the average amount of income you require to buy a home has just gone through the roof. We have actually dramatically decreased affordability of homes in this country, and that's terrible. If you go back to 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, if you were a middle-class American with a blue-collar job, you could afford to buy a home.
Right.
And that meant you could afford to get married and have kids. And now that's becoming further and further out of reach. There's way too much friction in the way of buying a home. I calculate it as saying up to 13% of the cost of every home is friction that we can make away with software. And I think we need to build more homes. And we have to have great home builders build more homes. But we also need to make the friction go away. And it's not some theoretical things. Homes ownership is upstream from lots of different things we care about.
Right.
People who own homes keep safer neighborhoods, raise better kids. It matters.
Then are you confident that this will come back in part as companies like yours knock out unnecessary costs, bring down the affordability issue, but also as something that's innate? Because it's always been part of the American dream. And I don't think, when I see these stories, I don't think people have given up on it. I just think in their current situation that it feels hopeless.
200 years ago, Tocqueville wrote Democracy in America, and he wrote that the main difference between America and Europe was people owned the ground they lived on. It is why this country avoided the road to serfdom. It is not a theoretical thing. It's incredibly important. And I'm telling you, every day we wake up at Opendoor, every night we go to sleep, thinking about this, how we can make the average home for the average family better, more affordable, less frightful. And I think we're making real progress.
So as you can see, he's going founder mode, okay? Founders just say like, hey, you know what? We need everybody in the office, so everybody comes to the office. Then second thing, it's important to see that he says, hey, we're using AI and we dropped our necessary person for houses by 90%. Instead of 11, it's one person. This is the right steps to profitability. And I looked in the numbers, I looked into the statements, and actually he said that by late 2026, they want to be profitable. So imagine now we have this kind of bear market, flat market, choppy market going on. Then we see this story goes down, maybe, during the summer. And then we get like some kind of hints, maybe in the next earnings report, maybe, in the little bit of numbers that they get better and better. This thing can really, really fly. We are somewhere around like $5 right now. I think like $9 and $10 is the next double from here. And then obviously the rest is history because we can have, the goals by Eric Jackson, the hedge fund guy, is 82, right? So it can be a 10-bagger and more. So with that said, I hope you like it. Subscribe and make sure to check out xnDayTrading.com, the first link into the description, the first link into the comments. And I see you obviously tomorrow for a brand new video. And remember, the grass is greener always on the other side.